Hey everyone, I'm Reagan Weiss along with
Joey Deeb, co-founders
of The Hub.
I'd just like to start off by prefacing this by saying it's not just us. It's all of our core members of this group that make this. We have a lot of people that have worked hard, put their blood, sweat, and tears into this. Can't mention all of them because there's so many, but we love you all.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for every single one of you, and you know who you are, to be involved with this. And a lot of people are asking, why? Why The Hub? Let me tell you why The Hub. The Hub is a place that not just business owners are going to collaborate. It's where our community members are going to collaborate, where ideas are bounced off of one another. We just want to help people. We want to be there. We want to unify not just our businesses, but we want to unify our community. We don't want to hear about the negativity. We don't want to hear, there are so many other places out there that you can hear about the negativity in our community, and this will not be the place.
Our group can be a basis for so many different resources for so many different trades and industries. It's not just isolated to one specific trade or construction or cleaning or any of that. Everybody can come to the Hub to get actual references from real people using these business and utilizing them to see what kind of experiences they've had.
Now, the key word is collaboration, right? And you see that a lot lately, like collaboration. Well, it really is about collaboration. If I didn't know to collaborate with my friends behind the camera, Jordan Long, if I didn't know how to collaborate with all these other people, all these individuals involved, you wouldn't know about us. Because of those people, strength are in numbers. So just like Joey said, it's every industry. We want to hear from how your experiences were with your restaurants. We want to hear your cleaning people, your contractors, your roofing companies. I mean, every industry out there, your masseuses, your salon. We want to hear real experiences from real people. And one more thing, very, very important, we're not going to allow networking. When we say networking, I just want to be very specific on this. And people say, oh, well, you're kind of pushing people away. No, we're not, because there are specific network groups that post and tag people without ever utilizing their business. And we don't want that. We want real experiences.
You're not forced to recommend somebody simply because you're in the same group.
Right.
And that's what we want. And it's not just about business either.
Right.
It's about charity and giving. We want a local hub for events to help people.
We appreciate you. We love you. We thank you. Look for Hub ads on the radio. Look for the Hub bus on the Pasco County Public Transportation System. Look in Facebook and please share this, and let's grow this positive thinking, forward momentum community. We love you, Tampa Bay.
Join the Hub and grow with us.
See you soon.
BetUS.com. If you guys are betting on the games, whether it's NFL, NCAA, of course, you're not going to do that now. Maybe basketball, not football, but of course, the NHL, NBA, go to BetUS.com. You get a 125% sign-up bonus. And also, if you use this code right here, the promo code of TSW22, which, by the way, stands for the sports web, TSW22, or call that number 1-800-69-BET-US. Again, 1-800-69-BET-US, and put in that promo code TSW22, and I would really appreciate that.
I've had 27 beers spilled on me. Make that 28.
I've only got one place to go before the game.
BetUS.com.
Sign up at BetUS.com and get the best bonuses in the industry.
Hey, Stan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. stpetekeytag.com.
I love her to death.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Say, I love football. Say this. Say Tampa. Bay. Bay.
A.
Tampa. Tampa. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. Say Tampa.
Tampa.
Bay. Bay. Oh my God, she's so smart and she's so precious. I love her to death.
back to another edition of the Evolution of Sports Talk Television here live on I Love St. Pete, the hub and Amped Up Sports. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about on this happy
Hump Day.
Absolutely. You guys ready to talk sports? You guys ready to talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers? You ready to talk about your Tampa Bay Rays, who right now are not doing too well, coming into the game 4-1, but losing to the Oakland A's 4-1. How do we start off this show? Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, we'll have ABC Action News' meteorologist Denis Phillips on with us, talking about your Tampa Bay Rays, talking about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and some other things around the National Football League. Then after that, we will have the legend himself, former coach, scout, and now media member of Night Sports Productions, Amped Up Sports, Leo Haggerty, Jason Powers, Powers on Sports Podcast, and at 10:15, the madman himself, Mr. Mark Mancini, former XPW announcer, Mancini Media, and XM Sirius Radio. So a full lineup for you. And then, of course, as always, your phone calls. Because I'm not going into tonight like this, guys. Let's not do it. Let's not do it tonight. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Also, not only can you use the phone line, as always, I got to find a sponsor for that. Huh? How about that? Find a sponsor for the phone line. That'd be a good idea, right? Find some sponsors in general. You can also text in here. Troy Polamayu says first. Okay, very cool. I'll go ahead and fire the cannons for that. There we go. Christopher Cole says, hey, what's up, everyone? Bling, bling, Blake. I like it. I'll give you a Ric Flair. Woo! Good stuff there. And then, of course, Troy Polamayu, where is Harry? He is watching. He is under the watchful eye right now. He'll probably be watching you, right? I heard he may call in. Phone lines are open. No Dennis right now, so we'll see if we can get him on. But plenty to talk about, right? Plenty to talk about when it comes to your Tampa Bay Rays. Plenty to talk about when it comes to your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Still hearing the rumors for Tom Brady going to the Miami Dolphins. I keep on going back to it, so I'll continue to go back to it. He's playing for the Bucs this year, period. We'll talk about it. We'll stir the pot like we always do, because I think it's interesting. I do. I think there's an interesting story there. Now, did everything transpire like it was? Is there friction? I don't know. He's playing for the Bucs. So I think Bucs fans should be happy about that. And I know I'm probably going to ask Denis Phillips again about it. And he's going to tell me, you know what? I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. I see him right there getting ready, probably watching the game as we speak. So he'll give us an update on that. So I tell you what, without further ado, let's go ahead and get his intro on. Here we go. ABC Action News' meteorologist, top meteorologist in this area, in my opinion, the hardest working man that I know, Mr. Denis Phillips. Welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. And give us an update on that Rays game really quick. Last time I checked, it was 4-1. What's going on, buddy?
4-2, top 8. Yeah, they gave up 3 runs in the third and haven't been able to, do too much since. And, they pulled out some late inning heroics last night. Maybe they can do it again tonight.
All right, so we'll keep you abreast of that situation. Overall, they come into this game 4-1. I'm never going to rule this team out when it comes to on the field. Give me your general thoughts. McClanahan pitches tonight. He has 8 strikeouts, but only goes 4, gives up 3 earned runs. But, give me your analysis of this Rays team very early in the season.
I mean, well, Wander Franco obviously has started the season exceptional. He was hitting over 500 coming into tonight. And the guy, that's going to be really interesting because he's got all this pressure on him where everybody's talking about him as being, by the way, I don't believe he can be rookie of the year this year. I seem to remember reading that he would not qualify for rookie of the year because he was in too many games last year. I believe, I may be wrong, but I thought I remember seeing that. He was 18-1 as MVP, third choice in MVP in Vegas right now. Well, that was actually before the season starts, so maybe he's even higher now. But at the end of the day, the team does exactly kind of what you think they're going to. Every game, it seems to be a different player who tries to step up. I mean, I was at Sunday's game, and Brandon Lau just destroyed that ball that he hit out against the Orioles. I mean, they beat the Orioles 15 straight, so that I guess it shouldn't surprise anybody. But it just seems like they come up with a different guy every game, and their pitching staff is going to be the big question mark. I mean, you can't base anything on the Orioles. The Orioles are horrible. So, at this point, if they lose 2 out of 3 to Oakland, Oakland's a good team. They got the Red Sox. So, Peter, I think they're exactly what we expect. A team that finds a way to scratch up some runs here and there, but it's all going to boil down to, does their starters give them 5 innings, 6 innings, and then they turn to the bullpen, which has been so far this season. But, it's so early at this point. Who knows?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you on that. And here's the thing about this, Dennis. They've already have injuries. And, that's kind of the concerning thing for me, especially a young pitcher like a Patino. It looks like he's going to be going out for about 2 months. I mean, what do you think the impact of that is? And do you think this Rays farm system and their depth, they can kind of, overcome this again?
I think they can, because they're not expecting any of those pitchers to go more than an inning or two. I mean, the starters, look at the starting rotation. By the way, and I had a chance to go up and talk to Dave Wills and Andy Freed. I'm buddies with them, and I brought my daughter up to the clubhouse, or to the radio booth on a Sunday afternoon. And is that not classic Kevin Cash, which frustrated me?
Sure.
That Corey Kluber pitched 4 2/3. They were up 4-0. He hadn't given up a run. There were 1st and 3rd and 2 outs, and he did not and he had pitched, I think it was like 87 pitches, I believe. So, he definitely, it had been up there, but I don't know, man. I'd give him a chance to get one more guy and get the win. It just drives me crazy. And, Andy's response to me was, they're more worried about wins than they are about the pitcher getting win. And I guess I get it. I do. But if I were a pitcher, if I were a free agent, do I want to go to a team like that where I know that the manager is just as likely to pull me out with 4 2/3 and doesn't give me a chance to get that win? I find that really frustrating, but that's just me.
It really is frustrating. And, sometimes watching Rays baseball can be frustrating. And it always goes back to Game 6 of the World Series, where once again, Blake Snell is basically dealing, and you take him out in the 5th inning. At that point, you should leave him in. But that's how the Rays do it. They do it with their bullpen. And then on top of it, I think what really hurts them and early on in the season is because of spring training. So you don't necessarily want to have those type of injuries like you had already to a couple of your pitchers. So I think that's the reason why. But I agree with you on that. If a guy at that point is dealing, let him go a couple more innings, and then you save your bullpen, right?
Yeah, but to answer your original question, they're pretty deep. Right. They are, and their pitching is deep all the way down to Durham and beyond. So considering, again, they don't ask these guys to come in and throw 5. They ask these guys to come in and throw 1 or a third of an inning, or whatever the case may be, outside of the starters that they have. So they clearly know what they're doing. Injuries are always a big thing, and you never know for sure. You don't, but I would think, all that depth is going to come in handy as you get into the latter half of the season. But, injuries, you just never know. You never know. But at least, I guess, from their mindset is, look, a lot of teams have that one stud or 1 or 2 studs that if they lose them, they're done. The Rays don't really have that. McClanahan, I get it. There's the guy throws hard, and there's some other talented guys. But I think at the end of the day, that team, that pitching staff, it's all about the collective as opposed to the individual guys.
Now, look, we heard Stu the other day talk on the Rays broadcast how there is some flexibility now. They have $78 million. So is there a chance, maybe Dumb and Dumber, going back to that line, you're saying there's a chance. Is there a chance that the Rays could go out there and possibly get an ace if you continue to have the type of injuries to your pitching staff, or you just make a move to get you over, kind of go all in at the trade deadline? Just saying.
Man, I was reading that Oakland was shopping Frankie Montas, the starter of today's game, and the guy's awesome. And, I mean, there was a lot of rumors when Austin Meadows got traded that they were trying to free up space for a couple of people, and one of them was Frankie Montas. Have not heard anything else about it. I'm inclined to agree with you because if you remember, Stu was saying at the beginning of the year, and I think Stu is probably a public relations person's nightmare because he says what he wants to say. They might tell him, well, you should do this. And he's like, no, I'm going to say what I want to say. Now, I mean, you got to respect that to an extent that he speaks his mind. But he did come out before the season and say, look, I realize the Sister City thing kind of bombed. I realize it ticked off a lot of fans, and we're going to try to make this season for the fans. And I think you're right. I think if anybody knows the Rays and the frustrations that Rays fans go through, if you're going to make the fans happy, spend a little money and get a free agent. Charlie Morton turned out to be a really, really good free agent pickup for the Rays. And I'll be honest, when they signed Charlie Morton, I thought that was a huge mistake. The guy was making 12 or 13 million a year. He had a history of injuries the previous year or two, and I thought that was a massive mistake. And clearly it wasn't. He was a huge part of that team that almost took him to win the World Series that year.
All right, we're on with Denis Phillips of ABC Action News, a meteorologist with them, but a sports broadcaster here on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Let's go out to these comments. Troy yucking it up as always. Leftwich was so bad, the Buccaneers decided to hire their defensive coordinator as a head coach instead of the so-called offensive guru. Troy, again, tell Denis I'm on the corner of Himes and Woodlawn. I'm joking. Baseball, he's laughing about. He doesn't like to talk baseball. That's why we do it, Troy, just for you. I mean, I aim to please guys like you, buddy.
Shut up! I mean, it is baseball season, right? It's not football season.
Hello, it's baseball season. There are fans here of the Tampa Bay Rays just saying the Little League World Series is more entertaining than actual pro baseball. That's nonsense. And then Christopher Cole here, a big Cubs fan. NL Rookie of the Year is going to be Suzuki of the Cubs. I mean, what do you think of that young man? He's gotten off to a great start. And I get it. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. But he has been the talk of baseball, right? Yeah, and there was a lot of buzz with him even before the season started. So certainly a possibility. What do you think about, and, I'm just looking at this. I heard about it earlier. So Clayton Kershaw, I'm sure you heard about it. He had today was his first start of the season. He pitched 7 perfect innings. He went 13 strikeouts, no walks, no hits. He had a perfect game going through 7. And I'm looking to see how many pitches he had thrown. It looks like he threw 80 pitches. And they pulled him and did not let him go for the perfect game. This right here, this is the frustration for me, Denis, when talking about baseball. This is where baseball has changed. It's an event. You barely ever see a pitcher throw a perfect game. You have to keep him in there. What is wrong with Major League Baseball, these analytics, these stupid... And look, it may be because I'm not a fan of math. Look, I failed college math. Obviously, that's the reason why I'm a sports broadcaster at this point. Not a genius, not great with budgeting my money. With all that being said, too much emphasis on analytics and statistics, right? Yeah, I mean, look, Kershaw is injury prone. I get it. He is, and it's early in the season. I understand. I get all that, but there's been, 26 or 27 perfect games in the history of baseball. So it's an extraordinary feat. And if I'm the pitcher and I have a chance to throw a perfect game, man, let me throw 2 more innings. But Dave Roberts, decided against it, and I understand he is injury prone, but man, if it was a no-hitter, maybe that's one thing, but it's a perfect game. And he had 13 Ks. I mean, he was just being dominant. So, but you're right. That seems to be the trend these days. Now, did they win the game? I mean, how much? Yeah, they won. They won 7-0. Okay, so they're winning the game 7-0. They're not in any danger at that point. Why do you let the pitcher pitch and save your bullpen? That makes no sense at all. None.
Yeah, I just think it's the injury bug. Because, I mean, Kershaw has had a significant history of injury the last couple of years, and it was his first start of the year. I mean, I don't know. 80 pitches is not exorbitant.
Right.
It's you know, I bet I don't know. I didn't hear the press interview after. I don't know if he was ticked off or not. But if you're throwing a perfect game, you want to ride it out.
Well, that kind of takes me back to what Kerry Wood with the 20 strikeouts versus the Houston Astros. Wasn't that his first start or something like that? And of course, look, pitchers do have an advantage because you don't necessarily, that team is not going to be able to see all the guys' stuff or whatever. I get it. They do have those analytics, but only those numbers can go so far. But it kind of reminds me of that moment. I think he was pitching a no-hitter or a perfect game at the time, and he got a hit, but they still let him stay in there. He had 20 strikeouts. You want to see those performances because Kershaw is up there in age, so you never know if he's going to be able to ever do that again. What a moment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Roberts, I'm sure their management's like, look, it's his first start. We're just not going to take the chance. We need him for the whole year. I mean, the Dodgers are all in yet again. They added Freddie Freeman. I mean, they've got a ridiculous lineup. Honestly, there's no reason the Los Angeles Dodgers should not win the World Series this year. They have more talent than last year, but then again, they lost to the Braves last year, so you got to play the games. But I think that's their mindset. Look, although Clayton Kershaw has been horrible in the playoffs, he has always been horrible in the playoffs. And so I don't know if you depend on him or not, and we're talking October, but at the end of the day, pulling a guy up to 7 innings, 80 pitches, and a perfect game with 13 Ks and nothing else is kind of hard to stomach, I think.
I agree. All right. There was a great story last night. I'm not sure if you watched the game or heard this news story, but let's go out to this video here. The video will explain it for everything.
Phillips.
Yeah. Yes. Here we go. Here's the video here. Stand by. Here we go.
All right, take a look at this. This is Tuesday's champion with the Children's Dream Fund, Chloe Grimes. She threw out the first pitch today. Chloe has battled and beat cancer once, and she is currently in her second battle with cancer. And today she just did such a fabulous job throwing out the first pitch. She's got a cannon of an arm. And guess what? I am joined right now by Chloe Grimes herself. And Chloe, tell me how exciting it was for you to throw out the first pitch.
It was very exciting, and I loved it so much.
Who's your favorite player?
Brett Phillips.
And why?
Because he has the best smile. He's always having fun, and I like how he does his airplane.
He has the best smile, and he's always having fun. And actually, Brett Phillips caught Chloe's first pitch today. All right, Mom, I got to ask you, Chloe, throughout her journey, how brave has she been throughout this journey?
This girl has been unbelievably tough. She's went through 25 rounds of radiation daily and 36 rounds of chemos the first time around. We were absolutely devastated a few weeks ago when we found out that she relapsed, but she's been so brave and she's ready to take on the fight.
You are here with Chloe's team, her softball team, and we love it. They are the Fossil Park team. Tell me how much of a support this group has been for you through this journey.
We are so lucky and so blessed with the Fossil Park team, with our communities, our schools, St. Pete Christian, Shore Acres. Everyone has rallied together to help us out, and they always have our back. They're always there for us no matter what we need, where we're at, and what we're doing. So we're just so thankful and blessed for everyone's support in our community. We're also thankful for the Tampa Bay Rays. They were there the first time. They come on the floor. They bring us coffee.
Chloe, do you know what just happened? What just happened, Chloe? Brett Phillips hit a home run. Chloe, how special was that to see your favorite player, Brett Phillips, hit a home run?
Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
A lot?
You loved it. Chloe was out here doing the airplane, and Brett Phillips, her favorite player, hit a home run while she's sitting here inspiring us in her second battle with cancer. Chloe, thank you so much for joining us and inspiring us on this Tuesday.
You're welcome.
All right. Hey, Chloe's team, give me a big cheer for the Rays before we let you go, okay?
What a moment. That's all I got to say, because, we sit up here, we have our sports talk shows, we talk sports, and we think, because I go back to Dwayne Haskins a couple of days ago, and we were talking about Adam Schefter not being a human being and Gil Brandt not necessarily saying the right things in somebody's death, and wondering, is there people out there that do good things, or is there good things going on in sports, or is it all bad? And in this moment, your faith right there is restored. Your thoughts on that whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, Brett Phillips, he always has the likable, good guy, baseball is fun mentality. Just a great guy as it is, everything I've ever read about him. My oldest son is Brett Phillips, and he actually writes for D-Ray's Base still. And, he's always been his favorite guy, and he's heard nothing but nice things about him. But he actually, Brett Phillips, the player, he said that is the hardest he's ever hit a baseball in his life. Yep. He said the exit velocity and the distances, and they apparently went up into the C ring, because that's where it went. It never actually landed. They went up into the C ring, got the ball, he signed it, and then gave the ball back to the little girl. So, I mean, it's just, the story's been everywhere with good reason. I mean, it's motivational, it's inspirational, and that's the kind of stuff that I think you remember way longer than any other play-by-play or any other wins or any other losses. When you get a little girl like that, and it's almost like the time. I mean, I don't really remember if it ever happened, but remember back in the day, they said that Babe Ruth, pointed out the home run, and it's the same kind of thing. I mean, it was one of those ones that you'll always remember. It was a great story.
Yeah, he says, Phillips says, Chloe, you're an inspiration. I think that's the hardest ball I've ever hit in my career. I'm praying for you guys. I hope I can meet Chloe again in the future. You would never know she's battling cancer. Just the joy and energy she brought. It's tough, but it puts my career in perspective and how I've come out here every day and treat everyone with love and respect. Chloe, you add to the story, and I appreciate you. I hope she comes out of this stronger. I believe she will. I know she will, and I hope to cross paths with her again sometime soon. Thank you for your power. Just amazing. And I for that, great job to the Rays. Absolutely great job. They did an absolutely great job with that. Brett Phillips is awesome. And look, just a couple years ago, Game 5, he gets a big-time hit to keep the Rays alive. I mean, you remember it. And he's a local kid. He's a local guy at a Seminole. So it's a great story. And I just hope the Rays keep these kind of players around, because that, look, I get it. He's not the most powerful hitter. He's not the fastest guy. He may not even be the most talented guy, but you need guys with heart, and that's exactly what Phillips has.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around the block. He was with the Brewers before he came here, and again, we've followed him through his career, only again because of his name. And he was traded to Tampa on my son's birthday, no less. I mean, it was kind of meant to be. But you're right. You give the Rays credit, but honestly, that was not a Rays thing, because think about it. There's a lot of guys on a professional team that won't be that way. I mean, there's the majority of the people, you might say, probably just aren't like that. I mean, there's something about him that's infectious, that is, always seems to be positive. And I mean, that was on him. I mean, I'm sure the Rays helped make it happen, but that was all Brett Phillips being Brett Phillips. And it was just a great story. That bite you had, we ran it a couple of times today, a couple of times yesterday. And he seems sincere. That's not a guy who's trying to get airtime. That's not a guy who's trying to make his image look good. That's a guy who's sincerely a good guy and wants to help this young girl. So, I mean, it is. You're right. It's just a great story all around.
It is. It's a great story, and I think we need more great stories in sports like that. We're on with Denis Phillips of ABC Action News. What's the weather looking like here in the next couple of days for the weekend? Looking good?
Yeah, it's back to hot and humid. Maybe a couple of storms out there. I don't think we'll see too many. I think the next 4 or 5 days we'll have, and you'll look at the 7-day forecast, and it's pretty much like a rain every day, but it isn't. It's 10-20% chance. Most of the area stays dry, but the heat is back. And even though we might get a front or two in the next few weeks, the cool weather, it's gone. We are in it. It's not changing. We're going to stay in the 80s to the low 90s through October. So summer is here.
I just want some 70, 75 with that nice seat.
Ain't happening.
It ain't happening. It is not happening. Now, the Midwest is a little bit different. I was doing some research on this. What's going on in the Midwest? Lots of tornadic activity, right?
Yeah. There's a cold front. That's the same front that's going to be coming here and kind of fizzling out late tomorrow. But there's been tornado warnings all night and all day across the deep South. And again, eventually that front's going to be moving this way by late tomorrow into Friday. With it, maybe a couple of showers. No big deal. But yeah, I mean, it's feeling like summer. We're talking baseball, and before you know it, we'll be looking at Bucks training camp. So I mean, I love the draft. I mean, the draft is right around the corner.
All right. So who do you want the Bucks to take at 27, and who do you think they're going to take at 27? Look inside that crystal ball, Dennis Phillips.
I have not even looked at it. I truly haven't. I have had my eyes on hockey and on baseball. And I will be the first to admit I have not even looked at what the possibility of, who may be here, who may not be here on the at the end of the draft. What have you seen? Because again, I've seen nothing.
Well, I mean, I've seen a combination of things. A lot of people think they could take a Zion Johnson out of Boston College, who's a guard, which would make sense because you lose an Ali Marpet. Although you get a Shaq Mason from the New England Patriots. You have Aaron Stenny. You have Robert Hansey. So to me, there could be a lot of competition at that position. You could go corner. I don't necessarily think they're going to go corner. I could see them going defensive tackle, the kid Wyatt out of Georgia, possibly Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, because at this point, you don't have Sue signed, and you definitely don't have JPP signed, although I think Joe Tryon Shayenka, but I would feel better if Sue were signed. And even if he does get signed, I still think you have to address that position at defensive tackle. Just my opinion.
Yeah, and then you wonder if they might make some trades to get to, maybe get some more picks, down the road, because I think I'm just Googling some of this stuff here. I mean, there's, like you said, there's a lot of folks. Somebody's saying that Roger McCreary of Auburn, cornerback, is a decent selection. But I mean, we all know. I remember, gosh, this was years ago. There was a thing where you could try to select every single first round pick, and if you got them right, you get $1 million.
Right.
And it was kind of like March Madness. Nobody even came close, because there's always trades. There's always things that you don't expect. And I'm sure this year, and the fact that it's in Vegas this year, I think it's going to be a blast. Actually, I guess it's not technically in downtown Vegas, right? I think it's in the outskirts. I think I remember.
Yeah.
I don't think it's on the Strip.
It's in Detroit next year, though. What do you think about that? You have a draft in Detroit. Do you do that outside? Do you do it inside? What's the purpose of that?
How'd they manage that, I wonder? Literally, how do you think Detroit nailed that? Because, I mean, Super Bowl is obviously warm climates usually, or dome stadiums. But I don't believe there's a new stadium in Detroit. I don't believe anything significant has happened. The Lions are still the Lions.
Right.
And yet they grabbed, that's kind of interesting. You wonder how that happened. But here I'm looking actually at Sports Illustrated and see what they predicted that, the top 7 rounds. And of course everybody does it. But it looks like they're looking at who was their first choice? It was on here a second ago. No, actually it was the same guy. They're going with the same guy.
Huh.
The Auburn corner.
Well, I mean, that would make sense, too, because, look, Sean Murphy Bunting as our troll here, Mr. Troy Polamalu despises. He's coming into a free agency year. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. Then on top of it, Jamel Dean is also possibly a free agent. So they may go and replenish that position. We know Jason Light and his propensity, Leo word, of going out there and getting a guy from Auburn and LSU and players like that. But I don't know if I see that. I guess it's the best player on the board. I think they could also go wide receiver. Your guy, Dotson out of Penn State. Give me the scouting report on him. Could that be a player that you love to see in a Tampa Bay Buccaneer uniform?
He flies.
Yes.
He absolutely flies. He had a little bit of injury issues last season. But yeah, the guy's got great hands. I worry a little bit if he's like KJ Hamler, who also is a Penn State grad who went to Denver. You wonder if somebody like that can handle the physicality of the NFL as opposed to college. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying he can't. I just wonder because he's not a particularly big guy. but he is absolutely so fast. And I've seen him make so many big plays like Hamler did the previous year, again, before the Broncos got him, and he did nothing. So I don't know. So SI is also going with Travis Jones, defensive tackle from UConn, in the first round. That's what one of their predictions were. And then in the second round, they're going with Trey McBride, tight end from Colorado State. So another tight end. I mean, I guess you got to look that way, considering if Gronk plays, it's one more year, and they traded OJ Howard.
Yeah, I mean, and you only have Cameron Brate. Look, McBride is what the Bucs like. He can block, he can catch, but especially a blocker. That's what they want. That's the reason why you're holding out. And I think Gronk is going to come back. Are you surprised that he's kind of held out this long? And do you think Bucs fans should even worry about it? Because he came out the other day on Bleacher Report and said, look, if I'm going to do it in 2022, Dennis, it's going to be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and nobody else.
Yeah, I just don't think he's ready to I think he's enjoying the attention. I mean, there's a lot to be said for being courted by somebody. There really is. I mean, if you're out there and it's very obvious that somebody really wants you, and they're more than likely to offer maybe even a little bit more. I'm not even talking about money. I'm just talking about there's something about the attention that makes you feel good if somebody's courting you. And I'm sure Gronk is just enjoying the whole situation and not maybe ready just to say, all right, let's just do this. I think he's having too much fun playing. Why not? Why not? He's deserved it. He's earned it. He's deserved the right to do that. But yeah, if you were to ask me, I think he's back. I mean, I do. I know no more than anybody else, but I would think that he would return again as long as Brady's there and doesn't get traded to Miami. But that's another story.
Yes. Well, I mean, and that has been a story. Are you tired of that story that keeps on creeping up? I mean, this week it was reported, look, if it wasn't for the Brian Flores lawsuit, that Tom Brady would be a Miami Dolphin, Sean Payton would be the coach, and then on top of it, he would be a part owner. Are you kind of tired of that? Because I keep on telling Bucs fans, look, he's in a Buccaneer uniform this year. What I would hope that would happen, Dennis, is that Jason Light would sign Brady to an extension. But, as the legend himself says, Leo Haggerty, he doesn't think that Brady would be interested in that. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think there's ways to finagle the cap space and whatnot if they sign him to an additional contract. But I think that previous scenario that you brought up, I don't see any reason why that was not true. I mean, I do. I personally would have. I could imagine. This is just thinking out loud. I mean, he came to Tampa and won a Super Bowl. Do you think he has any more loyalty to Tampa Bay than he did to New England? He doesn't. Right. I mean, he left New England. He came to Tampa. Don't you think he would be really awesome for him to say, all right, and I also went to Miami and won a Super Bowl? I mean, I could see that attraction. I could. I don't think it's going to happen now, but right. I think at some point in time when they presented him with that ownership opportunity, you get Sean Payton in there, and I think that it absolutely could have happened that way. I absolutely do.
And I think the opportunity also to be a minority owner is what he's looking at, because at the end of the day, when his football days are done, I think that's where he wants to go. I think that's the direction that he wants to go in, as being an owner of an NFL team. And if I'm the Glazers and know this, I would give him some type of stake in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One more final question. The USFL Bandit Ball, Tampa Bay Bandits, are starting their season on Sunday. Any interest? Are you going to watch them? Even though it's going to be in Alabama, are you going to be cheering for the Tampa Bay Bandits and Bandit Ball?
Let me tell you, back in the day when I was in college and I had my opportunities to bet on USFL games way back when in the 80s. I remember the Bandits and the Philadelphia Stars, I think it was.
Yep.
And then Jim Kelly went to Houston, and Doug Flutie went to the New Jersey Generals. And Alabama, I believe Cliff Stout. I may be wrong, but for some reason I remember Cliff Stout, quarterback of Birmingham. I loved the USFL, but that back then it was just a distraction. It was kind of fun because they were doing kind of crazy things. But remember, what was the league last year or 2 years ago, just before COVID?
Yeah,
that was supposed to be.
Yeah, AAF.
Yeah, whatever it was. Tampa had a team, and
right.
it just didn't resonate. It just did not do much. And it was kind of a shame because if you remember on those broadcasts, man, they were putting live betting odds the whole time. I mean, they were embracing what would be the future, which is the now. It is the present, because on pretty much every ESPN game now, on NHL games, they're given the current live lines. On baseball games, on football games, it is now a part of our society, with the exception of in Florida right now, because we still can't do it. But at the end of the day, I think the USFL was kind of cool that way, because they were trying to make it a little bit different. The whole he hate me's, and everything else that went along. But I doubt that it's going to resonate, because it just seems like people in the spring have other things on their mind. It hasn't worked yet, so my guess is it's probably not going to work again. But you asked me if I'll be watching? Probably. If I'm home on a Saturday afternoon, sure. Why not? It's football.
All right, and I know we'll have a show here on the Sports Web. I'll try to give you a pre-half and post-game edition for the Tampa Bay Bandits live here on Amped Up Sports, the Hub, and I Love St. Pete. Will I be here? Will I be out somewhere? Who's my co-host? I have no idea. Just throwing it against the wall, because that's what we do here on the Evolution. And then XFL, The Rock announced today on Get Up the coaches that are going to be a part of the league, but we don't know what cities. Wade Phillips, Jim Haslett, Bob Stoops, and then also Terrell Buckley, Hines Ward, Rod Woodson, Reggie Barlow, and Anthony Beck, who's done some great work here locally. So
a lot of big names.
Right, a lot of big names there. Hopefully it works out. Dennis Phillips, go ahead and promote yourself here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television.
As hurricane season gets closer, we'll probably have less time for sports and more time for hurricanes. But for the time being, I get to do a little bit of both. Chief meteorologist here at ABC Action News on Monday through Friday, 5, 5:36, and 11. And our streaming shows as well, and lots of social media stuff.
Yeah, and I tune in to the breaking news. You were teaching everybody about tornadoes, how it's different in Florida because the radar doesn't necessarily pick up. I can't. You're explaining it in a certain way where tornadoes kind of trick you guys because of what? Why?
What happens? Like the radars are like 400, 500 feet off the ground to start, right? And when they're looking, they can't go in a negative elevation. They're always going at 0 or a half a degree elevation, which puts you up to about 1,000 feet, 800, 900,000 feet, right? So when we see a tornado, we see rotation in the clouds. The Weather Service might issue a tornado warning because they're seeing rotation, but they don't necessarily see if it's going all the way down to the ground. So there could be, and remember, a funnel cloud is what spins down. It doesn't become a tornado until it actually makes contact with the land. If it makes contact with the water, it's a water spout, right? So you have a water spout that's moving onshore. If it comes onshore, it immediately becomes a tornado because by definition, that's over land. But what happens is a lot of times our water spouts are so weak, by the time they move onshore, they just fizzle out entirely. So last week you get a tornado warning and people are freaking out because they think there's a tornado coming over their house, when in reality, it was never there in the first place. It never made it down to the ground. It's just that rotation. Now, bigger areas like in the Midwest and the plains, and every now and again in Florida, you'll get so much debris that's sucked up by the tornado that you can see that on radar. And then you obviously know that it's on the ground because you've got debris. But most of our tornadoes are so small, majority of them don't even make it down to the ground. And I try to tell people that, but they see tornado warning, they get all the alarms and the buzzers, and they start freaking out.
That's it. Rule number 7, don't freak out unless...
I'm freaking out.
There you go. Good stuff. Dennis Phillips here live on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Thanks a lot for your time, my friend. All right. We'll see you next
week. See you later, Pete. Have a good one.
All right. Go Rays.
Yes.
All right. There you go. Good stuff. We got, thank you very much to Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News. We've got Mr. Jason Powers on Sports Podcast, and of course, the legend himself, former Coach Scout and now media member of Night Sports Productions, Amped Up Sports, Leo Haggerty. I tell you what, let's go out his intro. Here we go. We'll get Leo on here. There we go, right there. Let's go ahead and get this guy's intro on. Here we go. All right, Mr. Jason Powers, let's go 3 screen there. Welcome to the Evolution, gentlemen. And I got to ask you guys, what are you doing on Sunday night? Because I may need a co-host or two. Tampa Bay Bandits ball, they're starting off on Sunday night. Any interest in that, Mr. Leo Haggerty?
Absolutely none. Peter, they're the Birmingham Bandits. They're the Birmingham Stars. They're the Birmingham Maulers. It's made for TV. They're playing all the games in one place where they can control, where they have to just go one time. They're not going all over the place with trucks and announcers and everything. Peter, this is a sham. It's a shame because you got good football players out there, but I don't see how this is going to work because you're going to have no fan interest because they're not even in the cities.
Well, they're not in the cities, but I'm going to try to cover it here on the Evolution. Jason Powers, any interest in not only the league itself, but maybe being a co-host on Sunday night with yours truly?
Yikes.
Oh!
No, here's what I'll say.
Yes.
Coach Leo, don't be making fun of my old city. I used to live in Birmingham for 20 years. I can tell you about all the good places to go eat, have a good time. We can have a bandit ball field trip up to a game one weekend.
Well, there you go. Sounds
good. I can get into that. No problem.
There's plenty of good entertainment in Birmingham.
Yeah, they used to. Didn't they used to have the blue-gray game there, or was it Montgomery?
Montgomery. It used to be in Montgomery. Yep.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, I mean, I will say that UAB just built a brand new stadium where they're playing all the games at. It's a beautiful stadium in downtown Birmingham, right in the middle of downtown, right next to the Civic Center where the SEC offices are at. So from a stadium perspective, it's nice. I think the reason why it has a chance to make it, it's going to be hard to garner some fan interest, but I think you're controlling costs. The league is, like Leo said, they're controlling the operations. All the teams are staying in Birmingham. All the broadcasts, you don't have to travel to all the different cities, so the costs are way low. They have a national TV broadcast deal with both Fox and NBC, so all the games will be on TV, which from a revenue perspective is going to be good for the league. It'll potentially allow the league to last longer than other iterations of spring football.
Good stuff. Good point. All right, let's go out to the comments. Let's get a little interactive here, and then we'll get out to the Bucks pressers, where our own Leo Haggerty of Amped Up Sports was at just yesterday. Let's see. Roger is not here because he is a Dungeon and Dragons. He's at a Dungeon and Dragons tournament after he's going to a Star Wars costume party. Bunting says Troy Polamayu. Jodell says, yes, I'll be cheering for the Bandits. So there you go. That's good. Let's go out to David because we always like to answer his questions here. Always some good stuff. My question for Peter and Mr. Leo, do you think we could pick up a tight end in the draft? Leo, go.
Absolutely. Yeah. By the time they get down to the high 20s, early 30s in the draft, I don't think you're going to see any tight ends go. So there'll be maybe one, but it's all going to be about defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and wide receivers.
All right.
Second, third round tight end for the Buccaneers. A second or third round pick there.
We hear Trey McBride. That's a name that everybody's hearing right now. He did quite well. I mean, could the Bucs surprise everybody as we've been talking about the mock drafts? And again, you can mock somebody with their mock draft. You're just throwing stuff out at the wall. But you go with the defensive tackle, a cornerback, a guard. Could the Bucs surprise everybody and go with possibly a Trey McBride at number 27, Leo?
No. Peter, again, I got Paul Perone finally taught with that. Remember, deal closest to the ball and work out. What's their need? If they do not sign Ndamukong Suh, they need a tackle.
Right.
And that's what I think that's what they're going to do is look that way. And they still have to figure out an offensive guard. Marpet's gone, Kappa's gone. They got one in Shaq Mason, but I think they're going to offensive guard, defensive tackle, first round. That's my thoughts.
Jason.
I'm with you. I think defensive tackle, especially if I know there's been several mock drafts with the Wyatt kid from Georgia. I don't think you can go wrong with that. Unless one of the elite receivers were to fall in the draft, potentially maybe you take it if one of the elite guys, which I don't think the receivers are going to fall. So I'm with you. I think either heavy defensive line, maybe a potential offensive line. I think Stinney and Robert Hainsey will kind of be the guys battling for that right guard spot. Sounds like you got obviously Mason, but yeah, you can never have enough depth of the defensive line or the offensive line.
Yeah, and I still think you stay away from offensive line. And again, if Zion Johnson's on the board and he's the best player, you want to take him. But you already have Robert Hainsey, you already have Aaron Stinney signed there, so I feel like you have enough competition at the left guard. On top of it, you have Leverett, a depth piece there. We're on with Mr. Leo Haggerty here, the legend, and of course, Jason Powers on Sports Podcast. It's a Sports Web live here on the Hub. I love St. Pete and Amped Up Sports. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Well, again, Leo was out at the presser, and he talked to Mr. Tristan Wirfs. And what did you ask Tristan Wirfs?
Well, I asked him one thing, Peter. It's have you ever missed a game before? And he said never. So this was eating him up that he couldn't play. And the second thing I asked him, I said, well, you said your rookie year that Tom Brady told you don't let him come quick, don't let him come inside. Has anything changed? Nope.
Well, let's go out to Tristan Wirfs. Let's hear it from himself. Let's hear it from him in his own words here live on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Here we go.
Game of my life. That was really sensitive subject. But yeah, no, I had never missed a game. I think high school, college. So it was really frustrating. I didn't know how to handle it, just being on the sideline and not being able to like help in any way. Was really tough for me. I was trying to be there and for Josh and kind of do what Josh does for me when I'm playing, ask him what he's seeing and kind of just help him as much as I could, from that position. But yeah, that was frustrating.
Last year, if Brady gave you any instructions and you said, don't let him come quick, don't let him come inside.
Yeah.
That's not going to change, is it?
No, I still hold on to that. He told us that in camp my rookie year. He said, don't get beat fast and don't get beat inside. I was like, sounds good.
All right, there you go. Welcome back to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. We also learned the theme of the day. Where were you when the Brady news broke? He said he was at Texas Roadhouse. What do you think he was eating there, Leo?
The biggest steak he could find. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I tell you what, Peter, we are going to have to go out. And Jason, you are welcome. From what I understand, the hogs out at USF once a week go to Mission Barbecue. We got to go out there when those guys are taking in, putting on the feed bag, because I'll bet there's a lot of barbecue going down. What do you think, Jason? You in?
I'm in. I was out at USF practice, refereeing practice a couple weeks back, right before the spring game, and they got some big boys. And you're right. I'm sure they are destroying some barbecue and some macaroni and cheese and some sweet tea at Mission Barbecue.
And I tell you right now, I've been to Mission Barbecue. It is a fantastic place to eat. Just throwing it out there. We'll go out there. We'll do a story on USF if you feed us here on the Sports.
Oh, Peter, if you go with me, you're getting fed. That's the bottom line.
I'm not only going to get a chance to see linebackers, but I'm also going to be able to put on those LBs there with the legend himself, Mr. Leo Haggerty. All right, I tell you what, let's go out to Levante David. And
real quick, Peter, yes. I'm going to make a prediction. This will be the last year Tristan Wirfs is the right tackle. I think you're going to see him move to left tackle at the end of this year. I think Donovan Smith will be a cap casualty, and then Tristan Wirfs will move to left tackle at the end of the 2022 season.
Now, Leo, do you think that is a wise thing to do, to move Tristan Wirfs, who's played very well, probably the best offensive lineman on this line, and you let go of Donovan Smith? Do you think there's a possibility that could happen because of Smith's big-time cap figure?
Well, not necessarily big-time cap figure, but he's getting up in years. And right. I think when they drafted Wirfs, the plan was for him to eventually metamorphosize. Hey, you like that one, Peter?
Listen to you.
Into that left tackle spot. Because, again, we sat there and I'm talking to Ruth Kagulis and I'm talking to Ira Kaufman, and I said, when he jumped out of the pool, and both of them said, he's the number one tackle. I said, how come general managers didn't see that? I was flabbergasted that he was still on the board. And I'll tell you what, I think the Bucs made a call and said, who you taking? And they said, Wirfs. And I said, let's trade.
Yeah.
Just to move up one to make that happen. So he was the most athletic 325-pounder I've ever seen.
I tell you right now, fans were complaining on draft night. I remember it to the day. Why did you give up a 1 pick or a 4th-round pick or something to trade up for Tristan Wirfs? He was worth it. He was clearly the best offensive tackle. We were talking about him on this show ad nauseum. That was the guy they had to take, and he certainly has been everything as advertised, in my opinion. Go ahead, Jason.
And he's come from a program made of offensive linemen, a very good offensive line program at Iowa. Ferentz really values that. He coaches it well. He coaches them like NFL blocking schemes, and they run a pro set offense at Iowa. So I think it's just a net perfect fit between Wirfs and the Buccaneers, and the transition to the NFL has been so seamless for Tristan.
You know what, Jason, you're exactly right. And let's throw tight ends in there too. You want a tight end, you go to Iowa. You want an offensive lineman.
Stanford, Iowa, Wisconsin.
Right, exactly. Same, if you can't get a Wisconsin lineman, just go a little bit south. You'll find one in Iowa, that's for sure.
Well, look, we talked to Kurt Ferentz here down at the Outback Bowl, and who did he coach under, guys? Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick at Cleveland. He was the offensive line coach.
I mean, so you're learning from the master there. You've got great talent that comes in and out. You're not only talking about tight ends, but also you have Anthony Nelson, who showed some flashes of brilliance. So to me, Iowa is a great program if you're going to get talent. And he even talked about the kid this year. I think his name is Lindenbaum, who a lot of scouts, and you know this all too well, Leo. What is this all about when they say an offensive lineman has short arms? What do you say to a scout, or what do you say to a player when that's put out there? I mean, does that really stop a team from drafting a guy because he has short arms?
Peter, it will stop a team from drafting a guy that has longer arms.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when you come down to splitting hairs, you got to look at measurables, okay? How big's his hand? How long are his arms? How's his feet? And again, is he a knee bender? And Jason, you know that as well as I do. When you're refereeing, low man always wins on the line play. So if you can't play in a knee bend, you're in for a long, long game.
Jason?
No, and I would say this. You can get away with some shorter arms when you are a center, whereas the long arms has to do with tackles when you're in a bigger area of space. Whereas that's where you hear a lot of times talking about short arms is when it comes to tackles. I think centers and guards you can get away with because you're operating in such a more smaller space than you are on the edge. You can get away with smaller arms. Whereas with a center, to me, the number one thing is, can he hold up, one, strength-wise, and two, he's got to be able to communicate. Is he intellectually smart enough to be able to communicate and read defensive fronts to be able to communicate that stuff to the other linemen?
All right, let's go out to the great TJ Reeves here, Buccaneer sideline guy, and of course, just does it all. I mean, Bet US TV, baseball shows, college basketball. I mean, the guy is a czar at this point. Just call him the czar of Tampa Bay. You guys are 1,000% on Wirfs, and TJ also says, and for all the accolades about Brady and the success throwing the ball, he doesn't get hit. The O-line protecting him combined with the scheme to get the ball out of his hands quick has been an enormous key. You're exactly right. And we talked about it. That is always the big time key when it comes to protecting a 44-year-old quarterback. Going to be 45 here coming up in the next couple of months. I believe it's August. So that is always a key. You have to have an offensive lineman. So we go back to that draft process at number 27. If there is a guard on the board, don't be surprised that maybe they pick one because, look, they want to provide competition and once again get the best player on the board. And like you guys said, you can't really go wrong with an offensive lineman.
No, you know what, Peter? And the key is, and I learned this way back in the day from Carmen Perone, and I know I definitely shout his accolades because he was a wealth of draft knowledge.
Okay.
when you look, you got to trust your draft board. If you got a guy up there, if you're picking 28 and there's a guy up there you have at 14, 15, or 16, that's your guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where it is. You know, hey, it may be a quarterback. It doesn't matter. You got to trust your board because that's what your scouts, that's what your coaches have felt. This is where it's going to fall. This is not how we think Jacksonville's going to go with the first pick. This is who we think is the best player on the board. And you go down from there and you sit there and you cross them off as you go. And you sit there at 28, 29, 30 where, Peter, don't be surprised the Bucks don't try to trade out of that first round.
Yeah.
Well,
And try to get a couple in the second because there's a lot of really mid-range talent when you look at it, probably from like 3/4 of the way through the first round to all the way through the second.
because of the attitude by Tom Brady and him saying it's unfinished business, and you're basically banking on this could be you go all in at this point, try to win a Super Bowl. Do you think there's a unique possibility, Leo and Jason, that you could trade up to get a player that possibly won't be there at 27?
The one, I'm going to give you a name, one guy that I could see them potentially trading up for. And I don't think they're going to trade. I don't think they're going to trade up, but I think a guy that you could trade up for who they could use a game breaker. I don't think they got probably enough ammunition willing to do it. Jameson Williams. He's probably going to be out 5 or 6 weeks, 7 weeks of the season. But if you had a game breaker like that for the last 8-10 games of the season, and that's the one thing the Buccaneers on offense could use is a game-breaking speedster at wide receiver, that would be a guy that you could potentially mortgage, a first-rounder this year and maybe a first-rounder next year if you really believed in Jameson Williams.
You know what, Jason? I'm hearing some strange things coming out of people about Olivo at Ohio State.
Really?
It's a love me, hate me. Either they think he's going to go top 5, somewhere between 5 and 8, or he's going to fall all the way down to 26, 27. I don't know what they're seeing, but I'll tell you what. There's 2 things you can't coach. Can't coach size, can't coach speed. The guy can run.
Yeah.
Now, what else do you want? You want a guy who can blow the top off. And that's the one thing the Bucks don't have right now with their starting group.
Right.
You got Godwin, you got Evans. They're possession guys in terms of they're going to get it. They're going to get open, but they're not going to hit that 40, 50 yarder.
Well, and here's the thing. They want Scotty Miller to be that, but he hasn't.
He ain't that.
He hasn't lived up to that expectation yet. Tyler Johnson, they drafted him 5th round. Loved the kid. Saw him out the Outback.
Slow.
Tremendous. But you don't have that speed. You get Russell Gage. I don't think he's necessarily a burner. And because of the uncertain situation with Chris Godwin, and if he's going to be 100% right away, I would not be surprised if they draft a wide receiver. Now, there's other teams out there that are looking at the same thing as we're looking at. You have the Green Bay Packers who lost their number 1 wide receiver. You have the Kansas City Chiefs who are looking at it. So Alave out of Ohio State's a possibility, but he may be off the board. Of Williams, because of the injury situation, he may fall.
He's not. He's going to be gone by the 15th pick.
Really?
Jameson Williams. So somebody's going to trade his electricity he brings to the field when he plays. He was the difference maker in the Alabama-Georgia game. Alabama would have won that game if he doesn't go down.
Correct.
He was torching Georgia. He was torching Georgia early in that game.
Well, and I think a Dotson out of Penn State, if he's there, a Drake London out of USC. I mean, the list goes on and on, gentlemen, when it comes to wide receiver, because it is such a deep position in this draft coming up here. With that being said, I tell you what, let's get back out to the presser here. Levante David, our own Leo, once again. Let's hear what he has to say here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Here we go.
Point. Was this the closest thing to a seamless transition going from Coach Arians to Coach Bowles?
Oh, for sure. I had something similar like this with Lovey and going to Dirk. But, obviously, we didn't really interact with Dirk like that. But since I already knew Coach Bowles, it was like, nothing ain't going to change. We just that new guy in charge, you know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, though, just once the offensive guys get acclimated to him and get to know him, it's going to be a great thing for the football team.
All right, so welcome back to the evolution of sports talk television, and he said it best. It was a smooth. You asked him, a smooth transition, and I mean your thoughts on his comments. Basically saying that, and the chemistry on this team. That's the great thing about it. When you go from a BA who established an identity for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a Todd Bowles who's coached in this league and seems like he has a lot of the respect of the players, it is going to be a smooth transition, right, Leo?
It should be. And again, Peter, you talk about coming lucky. The Bucs get an extra 5 days of practice because they hired a new head coach. And guess what? The guy was there already. So it's a huge win for the Bucs. Peter, I'm going to throw something out right now. And I talked about it yesterday on my daily memo. I think it's time for the NFLPA to get rid of these voluntary practices.
Okay.
I think it's time to say, okay, here it is. It's the off season. We're going to have X amount of mandatory practices. I don't care if it's 5, 10, 15. You come up with a number. 5 in May, 5 in June, 5 in July, and then come August, boom, you're ready to roll. But these voluntary ones, all that does is get the media all set, bent out of shape, say, oh, this guy's a bad teammate. Hey, it's voluntary. If they want to be here, they should be here. No, it's voluntary. And that's the hard thing. No one's questioning Tom Brady not being here.
Right.
But if anybody else wasn't here, they would kind of go, hey, what's the story? So I'm thinking they need to get away from that.
I would push back on this. What are the Buccaneers and what are all these teams really getting out of 5 days of practice in the middle of April? Really?
Yeah.
The good thing to me, what I like about the voluntary part is, the younger part of your roster is going to be there. Everybody from year 3 and down in your practice squad guys, are going to be there because they're fighting for a job. So that part of it, it's good developmental reps for the younger guys on the roster. Does Tom Brady and Ndamukong Suh, Mike Evans need to be there? No. What are they really getting out of it other than potentially hurting themselves if you're the veteran guys?
Yeah, and you know what, Jason? They have that 3-day mini camp for all the people that they draft and everything, and that's all you need. I agree. What are we doing in April?
Yeah. There is a mandatory mini camp in June for the whole roster.
Right.
That is a mandatory mini camp.
Right. And that's if I was a player, I don't know if I'd be there just because, okay, I need a little time to recover here.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's my thoughts.
Well, what you got out of the press conference, you watched it. This team, first again, where were you? Levante David said he was at home. You had Keanu O'Neal. He could believe that he was going to come back. Again, we talked about Tristan Wirfs, how he was at Texas Roadhouse, which is funny in itself. And also, it seemed like the attitude was they had a bad taste in their mouth after the Rams lost. They still are not over it. In fact, Levante David even said, look, I wish the Rams would have lost because I'm still not over that. Were you surprised by hearing that, Leo?
Yeah, I was, Peter, because I would hope they win because I want to be able to say, hey, yeah, we lost. We lost to the eventual Super Bowl champ. So it's I think it would have been worse if the Rams would have lost and the 49ers would have went in because now you go, man, we could have beaten the 49ers.
Right.
So,
the disappointing part of that Rams game, they got torched for 2.5 quarters, that defense.
Right.
I mean, say what we want. I know we want to defend this and defend that, and the Buccaneer defense got lit up for 2.5 quarters.
And the Buccaneers offense didn't show up for 3 quarters.
I agree.
Yeah. And again, this is what drove me nuts, Jason, and maybe it's the same thing with you. All we saw was the defensive ends for the Rams out in that ghost 9. They were so far outside the tackle that all they were doing was running the edge. Why the Buccaneers didn't run at that gap until that forced that guy to move in, I kind of wondered because I'm going, wait a second. Just run it there. You're 4 yards. before you get to anybody. And that'll slow that pass rush down. I mean, they were coming like banshees that whole time. So,
Leo, did Coach Bowles confirm that he's going to call the defensive plays, or is he going to let the defensive coordinators do that?
No, he's going to call it.
He's going to call it. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't see why this is such a big deal, because if you look in the Super Bowl, the two head coaches were calling all the plays on offense. It's not hard if you're going to call the defense, and again, you got to be comfortable with who's on offense. And Todd Bowles isn't even going to go near that offensive room. It's going to be Byron Leftwich. It's going to be Tom Brady, and that's what's going to be happening. But I don't see that to be a problem at all.
My only issue with Bowles calling the defense is one of Bowles' weaknesses as a head coach with the Jets was he was always a very conservative game managing guy. Do you go for it on fourth down? Those kind of things. He's always, most defensive guys are a little more conservative when it comes to going for it and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles the game management stuff of having to be the head coach while also being the defensive coordinator who's calling the plays.
And I've always had this conversation with Harry, the Greek professional handicapper extraordinaire, 1252 Chicago Sports. He feels like Todd Bowles will be a better overall head coach, but also will run the ball more. Is that what we believe? Will he run the ball more? Will it be the same Byron Leftwich offense that we've seen the last couple of years? Of course, BA looking over it. What kind of offense is it going to look like? Is it going to be different in your opinion, Leo?
No, I think it's going to be a lot different. I think they're going to put a major emphasis on running the football. Because the Rams kind of put the blueprint together for the Bucs.
Right.
Ignore the run, rush the passer. Play everything as a pass. And you know what? If they want to run the ball, I don't think, if I'm the Rams or if I'm another team like the New Orleans Saints, which has owned the Bucs the past 3 years during the regular season, go ahead. You're not going to run the ball every play. You're going to get impatient and throw it. And that's what the Rams did. They just went after it. And that's what I think you'll see.
Jason.
I think they need to have a little bit more balance of running it. I agree. But again, when you have Tom Brady, you're still going to throw the ball, 63%. I mean, between 57 to 60% of the time. I don't think you're going to be a 55% run team, 45%. Now, one thing I could see the Bucs doing early in the year, especially with not knowing what Godwin's status is, you might run the ball a little more early in the year because you're not going to have a full complement of your skill guys of Godwin maybe not being there early in the year. So I could definitely see them running the ball a little more earlier in the year and throw the ball a little more later as Godwin gets back into the mix and all that stuff.
Peter, I don't expect to see Godwin until October at the earliest.
Really?
I mean, this is not an injury that's just come back from.
Right.
In fact, one of the Orlando Magic, Jonathan Isaac, he's been out 2 full seasons with a torn ACL, MCL. It just depends on the severity of the injury.
Right.
And that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And we kind of heard that from Chris Godwin. I mean, it seemed like, of course he's going to say, taking it day by day, but it seemed like, there was a little bit, there's a little bit doubt there of when he's going to be 100%, as there should be, and it's a major injury. And then of course it goes back to also mentally. We saw what OJ Howard went through last year. He wasn't the same player. I don't necessarily know if that's going to have an impact on a Godwin, but I feel like it's going to be in the back of his mind, especially playing the Saints.
Yeah, it'll be on his mind when he takes the first hit.
Right,
and that's the thing. And again, he's got to work through that scar tissue.
Right,
and that's the question mark. How long is it going to take him to work through that scar tissue?
All right, speaking of injuries, we found out some interesting stuff here from Levante David. So let's go back out to Levante David here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television live on I Love St. Pete, the Hub, and Amped Up Sports. Here we go.
It'd be awkward, because, those like my older guys, you know what I'm saying? So, but now if they don't come back, I'll be the older guy, so it's kind of weird for me. But you know, I talk to JPP often, obviously. Sue, I hit a Sue up a couple times, see what's going on, see what's mine at. But, you know, those guys got, you know, families and stuff like that. They spend time with their families. And whenever they decide they want to do, I'm sure they'll make a decision, and I'm sure they want to be back here. No surgery, but it was a significant middle foot sprain, part of my list, Frank. So that's, you know, if it would have torn completely, I probably would have had surgery. I've been out for maybe like 6 to 8 months, but luckily for me, it didn't get that far. But it was real significant, you know. Throughout the playoffs, you know, I was having a tough time too, but I had to gut it out. You know, it's the playoffs, I have to play. But you know, for the most part, you know, I probably was probably about 60% out there playing. But you know, now I'm up. So I should be ready to go once training camp get here.
60%. Guys, for Levante David with that injury. And of course, I didn't mention it, but he was talking about possibly the losses of Sue and JPP. I mean, what do we stand on this, Leo? You've talked about this before. Do you think the Bucs will have an interest in JPP? Where's the market? Have you heard of any interest? We heard early that it could be the Dallas Cowboys, but they kind of filled that need. So could we see JPP back with the reduced contract and a reduced role?
If that's his last option, Peter, probably. Yeah, I think so. I would hope the emphasis is on Sue.
Okay.
Because everybody talks about, well, you know, this, that. The guy's the most double-team player in the NFL. That's Aaron Donald. That's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
He's the most double-team player. That means that you got Vita Vea, you got Shaq Barrett, and you got who's ever at that other end singled up. That's huge. So
well,
again, you got to get. I think they got to get him back in the fold, find a way. And you know what, Peter? Here's the problem: they got to save money for Gronk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't expect Gronk to show up till the middle of July, maybe later, because he doesn't want to go through fall camp. Why?
Mm-hmm.
He's a proven quantity. You don't need it. So
same with Sue.
Plus, there's not a lot of tread left on that tire, is there, Jason?
No, I mean, I think with JPP, that I think the Buccaneers have probably told JPP, "Hey, here's the number. If you get a better number, I guess you have to think about it. But the Bucs are not going to pay him probably more than, I would say, probably $4 to $5 million at most."
Yeah, I mean, and I think Sue, is still a productive player. You know, 6 sacks.
Yep.
JPP was coming off an injury. I still think he's a gamer. They're going to look at it, but I don't know if they're better off without those players. I get it. You want to get a Joe Tryon, Shayanka more time. And of course, you know, you want to see what Anthony Nelson has. But if JPP is fully healed from that injury, and he gets signed to, you know, some type of lesser deal than he had last year, I think you definitely have to have some interest in bringing him back. And then on top of that, Stu at the defensive tackle spot. Just my opinion.
One thing you can't do, though, it's easier for all of us as fans to fall in love with these guys, but at some point, the number of their age matters, and you can't keep rolling out these guys. They're more prone to get injured as they get older, especially at the defensive line position where you're just taking a beating. I mean, Sue is the guy that's been healthiest. I would roll the dice on Sue before I'd roll the dice on JPP.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Again, I'm not ready to give up on JPP.
And you know what, Peter? You know what he talks about with Sue?
Right.
He has like 140 or 150 consecutive starts as a defensive tackle.
He plays.
That's phenomenal. He shows up every week.
He's a gamer. He's still productive, and he still made more plays than Gerald McCoy in their history. Sorry, guys. I had to do it because Bucs fans love when I do it. You're on the Sports Web Air. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with the legend himself, Mr. Leo Haggerty, former Coach Scout and now media member of Night Sports Productions, Amped Up Sports, and Jason Powers on Sports Podcast. Let's go out to the final clip here. Keanu Neal talking to Leo here on the Evolution. Here we go.
Played safety that was really comfortable playing in the box too, named John Lynch. You going to kind of look to be that guy to come down in the box when needed?
I mean, I'll do whatever they ask me to do. You know, I obviously thrive down there. You know, I enjoy playing in the box and playing aggressive, making my presence felt. But you know, whatever they ask me to do, you know, I'm gonna put my best foot forward and do it.
Question, the free and the strong is pretty much interchangeable in Coach Bowles' system. Did that have an effect on you coming here?
I didn't think too much of that, honestly.
I kind of think he did, though, because he had a little pause there. Leo, your thoughts on
They call that the pregnant pause. And I can remember asking Bruce Arians after Jameis throws the interception to end the season, the pick 6 against Atlanta, and I go, Coach, is Jameis fixable? And that's how long the pause was. JP and I, we turned to each other. I turned to Ira. I said, "Oh, he's gone." That sometimes the non-answer is the answer, and I think that's what it was with Keanu Neal. That hey, yeah, I can play free or strong, and it's interchangeable.
It really is. And you look at it, Jason, I mean, you get a kid and he's still a kid. He's 26 years old. He's been off injured, but remember, he's a first-round pick. He's a hard hitter. You're trying to replace a Jordan Whitehead. What was your thought process on not only what he just said, but also the versatility that he can bring to a Todd Bowles defense?
I think he's a strong safety because Winfield's the free safety. I think Winfield's shown he's got the ball hawking skills. He's the roamer in center field. I think that's where you want Antoine Winfield. What I find interesting is what the Bucs have done at the safety position this offseason. Logan Ryan, Neal, you team him with Winfield. That's a good addition, a good veteran addition. They let Whitehead go. It would not shock me if Mike Edwards was not on this team as we go to training camp. So interesting how the Buccaneers have addressed the corner position. I think you'll see Keanu Neal as a linebacker, as a run stuffing kind of goal line, short yardage linebacker kind of guy. If they do any version of a 4-3 defense at all, he'll be that third linebacker with Levante and Devin. So I don't think Keanu Neal is a free safety. I think he's a in the box, short space, strong safety.
And Jason, I think the same thing. All I can remember is the Bucs lining up in that cover 2, and here comes John Lynch skipping down into the box.
Yeah,
and that's what I think you'll see out of him.
Well, that's the type of safety he is. He'll knock your head off. Of course, hopefully not picking up a penalty the way the National Football League is.
You know what, Peter? That's a great point. I was going to ask him how hard it is to play safety now with the new rules. I'm going to get that one in at training camp.
All right, one question here, and then we'll get you guys out of here. Thanks for the time. Christopher Cole says, do we sign a fullback? Fullback on this team or no?
No.
No? How come?
Because the fullback, what is the purpose?
What's
of
the difference
fullback?
between him and Gerald and Leonard Fournette? Right?
No, and if you need a fullback, you put Vita Vea at fullback at the goal line. That's your fullback.
Well, a lot of people, listen, a lot of people will say the San Francisco 49ers have a fullback every year, and their running game is a lot more successful. So I get it. I understand the Bucs don't do it.
The Bucs don't want to run the ball. That's the thing. San Francisco wants to run the ball.
But I asked you guys the question, has the offense changed? And you said, what? That they want to run the ball more. So
but they'll run it without a fullback. That's for sure.
All right, good stuff there, Christopher Cole. Leo Haggerty, go ahead and promote yourself here on The Evolution.
Well, I'm getting ready to post my right around midnight national and local sports report. Peter, we have a real scoop coming up, though. South Florida's women's team, 6'2" guard Priscilla Williams, transferred in from Syracuse. She'll be an immediate help to the Bulls.
Wow, nice. Good for Jose Fernandez's crew. Good stuff there, Leo Haggerty. Thanks a lot for your time here on the Sports Web. All right, my friend?
I'm out of here. Take care, guys.
There you go, the legend right there. Let's go out to Jason Powers. Jason, go ahead and promote yourself here on the Sports Web.
Powers on Sports podcast. We might be having some guy named Peter Blake as a guest this week.
Whoa!
Here in a little bit, we might be doing some recording.
Yeah, baby.
You never know. And to follow up with Dennis Phillips, Cliff Stout was the quarterback of the Birmingham Stallions back in the day. If you remember, Cliff Stout was Terry Bradshaw's backup with Pittsburgh. So he was the quarterback for the Birmingham Stallions. Remember, Steve Young was for the LA Express.
Yep.
So you had a team in Orlando. You had Lee Corso, our buddy from College Game Day, coached the Jacksonville Bulls and so in Orlando as well. So lots of pedigree in the USFL that's going to be kicking off again this year. And obviously, when Steve Spurrier got his pro coaching debut after he coached at Duke, he was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bandits for the Tampa Bay back in the day.
Well, see, it seems like you have some interest and also some history. So maybe we'll get together again as the tag team.
Maybe I might give you a trial run.
All right, because of course TJ is Freddie Blassie, you pencil neck geek. That's what he says to us when we don't do a show together. Good stuff, Jason Powers. Thanks a lot for your time here. Yes.
Speaking of that,
yes,
I was watching USA Network last night, and they did a tremendous WWE did a tremendous hour documentary on the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Really? Well, did you watch okay, real quick, because we're going to get a wrestling guy on here, but I know we're wrestling fans. Did you watch, first and foremost, WrestleMania, night 1, night 2? What did you think? And then the Hall of Jason Powers. And then the Hall of Fame with Undertaker giving a 15-minute speech that was probably the greatest Hall of Fame speech of all time. You didn't see that?
I did not, man.
Oh my God, you're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
I mean, no offense, but when we're watching WWE Wrestling Hall of Fame speeches, come on now.
Hey, listen, I'm going to watch it because when you got Scott Steiner coming out and he's doing all these equations and stuff, and the first story he tells is about a cow and Randy Macho Man, there could be something that's going to happen. You know, it's like a train wreck. You can't. Scott Steiner put a promo with Rick Steiner. Those guys look old. I'm telling you. And that kid, Braun Breaker, by the way, please stop with the name changes. Just name him Steiner. I mean, he's a cross between his father, Rick, but he can cut a promo like Scott. He is a superstar in the making, right?
I'm not watching the wrestling much these days, to be just quite honest with you. I love a good promo. I love a good shit talker. When a guy talks some smack in the promos, I get it. But the ultimate best promo guy of all time was the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Woo! I agree with you. There you go. Good stuff, Jason Powers. Thanks a lot for your time here on The Evolution, all right?
You got it. We'll see you in a little bit.
See you in a little bit. There you go, Jason Powers. Powers on Sports podcast. What do you mean? I mean, he's making me look like I'm the only wrestling fan out there. I did watch the Hall of Fame. I watched it later on. I didn't watch it live. I had to see it. It's The Undertaker. It's the Steiners. It's Big Van Vader. All right. So let's go ahead really quick. I tell you what, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Let's hear from our sponsor here, BetUS. Here we go. BetUS.com. If you guys are betting on the games, whether it's NFL, NCAA, of course, you're not going to do that now. Maybe basketball, not football, but of course, the NHL, NBA, go to BetUS.com. You get a 125% sign-up bonus. And also, if you use this code right here, the promo code of TSW22, which, by the way, stands for the sports web, TSW22, or call that number 1-800-69-BET-US. Again, 1-800-69-BET-US, and put in that promo code TSW22, and I would really appreciate that.
I've had 27 beers spilt on me. Make that 28.
I've only got one place to go before the game.
BetUS.com.
Sign up at BetUS.com and get the best bonuses in the industry.
All right, welcome back to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web, live here on I Love St. Pete, the hub, and Amped Up Sports. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. All right, we were talking wrestling. We let it in. So let's go ahead and get this guy on.
Oh, yeah!
The madman himself, former XPW announcer, XM Sirius Radio, and of course, Mancini Media. Mark Mancini, welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. And
I'll tell you, man, this is the show that's sweeping the country. And just to finish on Jason Powers, Rick Neuheisel with the San Antonio Gunslingers, Cliff Stout with the Pittsburgh Maulers, Doug Williams with the Oklahoma Outlaws, man. We can keep going on with USFL talk, but right now I'm going to crack open some Broken Skull. I got the caskets, and I'm burying that Troy Polamalu tonight.
All right. Let me see here. Somebody says I'm blocked, so I'm not sure if I can comment. Do this. You're not blocked. Who blocked you? Nobody blocked you on this channel. I don't know who blocked Saboteur. You're not blocked at all, my friend. At all. All right, so you have some interest in the USFL. Of course, it's starting on Saturday for us locally here for the Tampa Bay Bandits. So what are your memories of that league, and do you think it can work out here in the next couple of years?
Well, if they do it right, if they worked it where, they separated and weren't going against the NFL, you had Donald Trump running the New Jersey Generals. You had Herschel Walker there, Buck Bellew. I mean, you had some talent. You had Jim Kelly with the Houston Gamblers. I don't know if they rushed it. You gotta, do it right. If they do it right, and then next year, we're going to see The Rock coming out with the XFL. That's going to get interesting. We've just seen so many of these organizations try to come back, a lot of flash, trying to get their money back in the first week after they built it for a few years. You got to do it right, my friends.
Yeah, you definitely got to do it right. And I think, having a TV contract with Fox and FS1 and NBC helping out, you're not fighting it. That's what you got to go with. And you're exactly right. The Rock today announced some of the coaches: Wade Phillips, Jim Haslett, Bob Stoops. You have Terrell Buckley, Hines Ward, Rod Woodson, Reggie Barlow, and Anthony Becht. Your thoughts on that? I mean, you don't know where they're going to coach at, but it certainly seems like The Rock and his former ex-wife, Danny Johnson, has a plan, right?
Well, I think they do because, the first go-around with the XFL, somewhere around here, I got something with the Memphis Maniacs, and the hot tubs sitting on the sidelines and everything, and the women out there, and, the Saturday Night Fever. It was almost like Saturday night's main event, but I think they're going to tone it down a little, do it right with the big networks backing it up. It's going to be a little different.
Yeah, definitely a little bit different. XFL, USFL, we'll have it covered here on the Evolution. Now, with that being said, I know you're in LA. We talk some basketball. We'll get to wrestling in a moment. Are you surprised that Frank Vogel has been relieved of his duties? And then Russell Westbrook, so you could call him Russell, whatever you want to call him, because he can't hit a layup. He can't hit a consistent shot. Are you surprised of how that's
here's the thing. I'm going to say it straight out. The Lakers are straight out garbage. I mean, with a payroll that big, and Frank Vogel, somebody's going to take the fall. He's the fall guy in this whole thing. Russell Westbrook wasn't even supposed to be here. They were trying to get DeMar DeRozan, but he didn't want to come. LeBron orchestrated this whole thing. Anthony Davis and bring Carmelo in and all these guys just didn't work out. I think when you got to put the blame, you got to put it on Jeannie Buss. She's nothing like her dad was. God rest his soul. A little bit better than her brother. But LeBron, nobody's taking a stand on him. And since Pat Riley did in Miami by saying, you know what, we're not getting rid of Eric Spoelstra here. We'll get rid of you. You can pack it back to Cleveland or go to L.A. And that's the problem here. I mean, I like LeBron, but you built this, you lie in it now. And that's the thing. The Lakers, it's going to take a lot of work to get this team respectable next year. A lot of expiring contracts. You got to get rid of that and try to, maybe move Anthony Davis, I'd have to say.
And I think that's the biggest problem right there, because as talented as he is and young, he can't stay healthy. Honestly, let's go out to Salvatore here. Lots of comments tonight from him. Trump has to get involved again. We'll see. Philadelphia Stars were all 3 title games on the USFL. Salvatore again, they can't trade Westbrook because he has the 4th highest cap, something along the lines of $47 million. And Salvatore says, and let a coach coach. LeBron wants to be a player coach. And of course, that is the problem. One more final question in the National Football League, and then I'll let you go. How much do you believe of these rumors with Tom Brady to Miami and Sean Payton being a minority owner? Do you put any stock in this?
No, I don't, because I think, with the commitment there with Bruce Arians moving up to the front office, I think Tampa's in good shape now. The Bucks are going to be better with Bowles. I like Tom Brady and Tampa. The division, when you're looking at the division, why go to a division when you're going to try to unseat Buffalo there? Buffalo's not going away.
Right.
And that AFC is the SEC. I mean, let's face it. Matthew Stafford has a lot of time on his hands out here. He's buying houses from Drake, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what he's doing out there, but hopefully the Rams, I know you're out there, but losing Von Miller and losing a Woods, but they get an Allen Robinson. Hopefully they take a step back. Now, on Tuesday night's episode of the NBC sitcom Young Rock, do you watch that, by the way? Do you watch?
I watch it a little. I missed this one, but I know he was teasing a thing with Rock and Reigns.
Well, a young Johnson and his family gathered to watch the 1996 Royal Rumble when a young boy jumps on Johnson's back and demands the future wrestler acknowledge me. Of course, that would be Roman Reigns. This is kind of great if this works out. I mean, they've done this correctly. And we all know the history with WWE and NBC, of course, being a part of Peacock. So in your opinion, with this little tease, is this what basically happens for WrestleMania 39 in LA? Is it going to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns in your opinion? And should this be the way they go where finally, pardon the pun, but I had to do it, they take the belt off of the tribal chief and give it
I think it is. And, I've liked the Reigns ever since he came in and debuted with the Shield. There was a time there when the fans were giving him crap being a face. They didn't want to turn him heel, kind of like the Cena thing. But man, oh man, when this pandemic hit and they created that character and he came back SummerSlam 2020, he's rode a wave. And, now he's with the Usos and Heyman. This is going to get interesting here. Can the Usos take the belts from RK Bro and break up that faction? But I'll tell you, the tribal chief's well on his way. Nobody's going to stop him. We might see Shinsuke Nakamura come in, get the Drew McIntyre, and then we'll see the build-up in Hollywood with The Rock and Reigns, and that is going to go through the roof here at SoFi.
Is that the way you book it? Do you take the title off of a Reigns, or do you do it before then? And do you like the fact that Reigns has the belt for so many days, kind of in the essence of a Bruno Sammartino who had something like 4 years in the 70s? It seems like it's unheard of, but WWE is kind of trying to recreate that again with Reigns.
Well, you can't take it from him because then, there's nothing to market. So you got to keep it around his belt. You got to keep that whole thing. I will tell you this. When this Rock Reigns thing goes down, I think we're going to have family values coming to the forefront. I can see the Usos kind of, being mixed here. It could be one side. Somebody can go, to the Rock side, Rikishi here. It's going to get interesting, man. But I love Reigns, the needle mover, the tribal chief, wreck everybody and leave, show up and win. The guy battled cancer and everything. I love this guy.
And I think it kind of goes back to what fans really wanted. I mean, they wanted John Cena to be a heel forever. They kept him face, of course, but everybody was saying the same thing about Reigns. And then finally, when he turns heel, how can you really complain? Because the WWE has done a great job in booking him. I just hope they continue to do that. With that being said, do you feel like compelling television is involving the family with having the cousin of The Rock? Does it build it up even more, in your opinion?
Yeah, it does. And like you were saying earlier, we've seen where WWE's dropped the ball on this thing. And we talked about the stunner to Vince McMahon. That was a botch thing. And then they were talking about that. So we kind of saw it and laid it out for the listeners of this great show. And then you see the name changes in the WWE. I don't care if it's Ezekiel. I don't care if it's Eric. I don't care if it's Ethan. Just let's get the wrestling going on, man. But it's the bottom line is, it's Reigns and a couple other guys, and that's it. And, my buddy was texting me earlier. He said, talking about Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, what did you think of him with some of the great matches? I love the Macho Man's matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And I like Ric Flair's matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yeah, well, if you ever watch the documentary on A&E, they did it on the match between Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat, and it's amazing. It's something like 200 moves or something, and they had to remember it, and that's how. And Macho Man always tried to top that match but could never do it. That's how great of a match it was, and it really stole the show of WrestleMania 3. It really made that show unbelievable, right?
Yeah, I think was that the one in the Pontiac Silverdome?
Yes, that's the one where Hogan slams Andre the Giant. But if you go back to it, the best wrestling match overall was Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was a classic, man.
They stole the show.
That was definitely, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was just a simple. I mean, can you imagine? I don't even know who you compare anybody today with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. It'd be hard pressed.
Right. And I kind of remember, big time main events, a guy stealing the show. In your opinion, was it as good as Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker twice?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
was that not a great
that was a good one too, but Triple H held his own with The Undertaker too.
He did. I mean, both of those, but especially Shawn Michaels, especially that one. All right. On top of it, there was talk today about The Rock. And I don't usually talk politics here, but they said he has a pretty good chance to be the next president of the United States in 2024. This is what The Rock had to say a long time ago about this. Not sure our founding fathers ever envisioned a 6'4", bald, tattooed, half black, half Samoan, tequila drinking, pickup truck driving, fanny pack wearing guy joining their club. Again, he tweeted this out in 2021. But if it ever happens, it'd be my honor to serve the people. Chances that The Rock in 2024, and he's kind of running a show, the Young Rock, that Young Rock show on NBC and Peacock. He's talking about running for presidency of the United States. Could you actually see Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, being the next president of the United States?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When I look at, my dad always used to tell me, he said, son, nobody really cares what you think unless you really care. I mean, they look at it like that. And I think in today's society, and we're old enough to reflect on this, to look back on it, I think you got to care. And we don't see a lot of that in today's society. So if you can try to reach people, try to understand where they're all coming from, stay firm in what you believe in, yeah, I think you could do anything. Anything's possible. I mean, but I just think that what we have today is we get a lot of these people that are trying to get reelected before they're even elected.
Great. Good stuff there. We're on with the madman himself, Mark Mancini, Mancini Media, former XPW announcer, XM Sirius Radio here on The Evolution. Let's read these comments from Salvatore tonight. Again, we talked about that one. Let's go. 80s, another one they can't trade. They're stocked up. TB or Tampa Bay stocked up to protect Tom, so he's staying put. Salvatore says, why not? Arnold did it, the body also. And Salvatore says, and what political experience did Reagan have? It's a good point. I'll give you the Ric Flair for that. Woo! You're exactly right. And I will never rule out anything. If Donald Trump got in, then anything is possible. Let's get back to wrestling before I shoot myself in the skull, because I don't talk politics on this show. There's a reason for that, because then you hurt somebody's feelings and then they try to cancel you, and we're not going down that road. Let's talk about Cody Rhodes. Were you surprised? I mean, we talked about his intro at WrestleMania, but The Miz, I think you're kind of trying to build up as him as a face versus a Seth Rollins eventually, and then taking on a Roman Reigns. Why The Miz?
Yeah, I don't understand this. I want to see a Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, and they're both faces right now. The American Nightmare coming back. I think the real thing here is you got to build this thing, because I think Cody Rhodes is going to take one of those belts from the tribal chief. That's where this thing's going. They didn't bring this guy back again to sell T-shirts with mustaches on it. That was the big thing when he was going out of the WWE.
God.
So this is something to behold. I think he'll run roughshod through The Miz. Watch out for Logan Paul and Jake Paul here. This is going to get interested in a match with The Miz and Rhodes.
Well, I hope so, because then I can probably maybe get the Paul brothers here on The Evolution. Just go like Taylor, Jake Paul. Little history there. If you don't know, go ahead and Google it. I went viral 7 times. Just saying, not patting myself on the back, just giving you the facts of it. Love to see that. And he even talked about that with Titus O'Neil. Could you schedule something with the Pauls versus the Furies? But I tell you right now, I'm still shocked that Logan was so good in that wrestling match. He absolutely trumped, if you will, Bad Bunny from last year.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. You thought he was just going to wear a mask and give it back to the Mysterios, but he looked darn good.
Yeah.
And what's happening now is, and I'll tell you on 2 fronts here in the WWE, I think you're going to see a huge push now for Bobby Lashley. And I think you'll see a push for Austin Theory, who's dropped the name Austin now. With McMahon backing him up, I think Theory's going to get a big push.
Why did they drop the name of Austin Theory to Theory? Why did they? And this was kind of being talked about. I want to go out to this article here. WWE name changes here. This is from Cage Side Seats. Walter to Gunther. Pete Dunne now to Butch.
Yeah.
Pete Dunne to Butch. Marcel Barthel now.
Butch and the Sundance Kid.
Right. Marcel Barthel into Ludwig Kaiser. What the hell is that? Raquel Gonzalez, now Raquel Rodriguez, and Austin Theory. Why did they continue to change names? Especially the other one the other night. Now he's the twin brother. I can't think of his name now. What is it?
Ezekiel?
Yes, Ezekiel.
Elias?
It's the same guy. What are you trying to do? I don't understand this, WWE. Make it simple for me, Mark.
The dude came out. I thought it was Richard Simmons, an older version of Richard Simmons.
He's a little bit more muscular than that,
Yeah.
man. He's a little
I
bit.
said to myself, Richard Simmons is back. Or I kind of had to look at him twice, and I said, "Is Carlito back?"
Oh, it's. And I saw the picture, and then they're floating out this picture that they're two different people. They're not. It's Photoshop.
Yeah.
Fake news. Absolutely terrible. I don't get it.
Yeah, but you know, the real thing is what are they going to do with Rhea Ripley? I mean, is she going heel or what?
She should with Edge, and
Yeah.
the picture she posted online. I'll just leave it at that. Once again, Google that because that's definitely good stuff. Let's go out to PW Insider. They claim Cody Rhodes is listed internally as the number 2 babyface on Monday Night Raw behind Lashley and AJ Styles at number 3. Talk about the Lashley thing. Were you surprised that they had MVP turn on him? And is that the way to go to get almost over, who's almost done? I think
almost was almost done. But
hey,
you know, with MVP there, he's got a mouthpiece, so he'll get a good push here. We'll see what they do. This could be another one of those Keith Lees where they were trying to give him a push, calling him Bearcat and all this other stuff, and just never worked out for him. But Lashley's the real deal now. Vince likes guys that are huge. He doesn't like small guys. So it's interesting now that Lashley will get the push, and we'll find out with Theory, because, you know, when I look at Theory, I said to myself, well, why wasn't Dolph Ziggler ever given a big push in this thing? Because I like his wrestling skills and everything. And what do you do when RK Bro breaks up? Because you know that's coming. Orton will probably go heel on that, and that'll keep Riddle relevant for a little time. And Riddle, they dropped his name at one time too.
Well, you're exactly right. They're going to go against each other, and that will get Matt Riddle over, which, that's what Randy does. Do you think Randy should be the one that takes on Roman Reigns or somebody else?
Oh man, am I looking for that one? I'd love to see an Orton Reigns leading up to The Rock. McIntyre's kind of slipped a little bit, but we got this Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin thing going on, so that'll take that. So I think McIntyre needs a little more competition here. We'll find out where it's going down the line, but I think they're setting him up with Reigns, but that'll probably be late summer.
Yeah, Orton is such a consummate professional, and it doesn't seem like he's really lost a step. In fact, he continues to recreate himself. Now, the list of top hills, and again, this is from PW Insider. The red brand is Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Edge, and Damian Priest. Speaking of Edge and Damian Priest, what the heck was that the other night with Damian Priest? Are they trying to recreate the Brood?
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you one thing. If Damian Priest was a woman, I thought he was going to marry Edge. He speaks so highly of him each and every week, and he's in, but yeah, that's going to be his go-to guy there. They'll probably bring in Rhea Ripley. We'll find out if Finn Balor goes bad. They're going to get this thing up here for about 4 or 5 guys. They're going to try to build it like the Shield or Nexus or one of those. But even when the Brood was around, it was good. Nothing like Nexus or the Shield. The Shield by far was the best faction I ever saw.
Well, they ruined the Nexus. They absolutely ruined that whole thing.
Yeah.
They put John Cena over, and they suspended Daniel Bryan at the time, or Bryan Danielson. They ruined it because they could have absolutely put them over as they should, and they didn't do it right. They put John Cena over, and then, of course, the faction broke up, and I'm trying to think of the guy that was the leader. Now he's an announcer.
Oh, yeah, he's at NXT. Wade Barrett.
Wade Barrett had all the potential in the world. And remember, what was that faction made up of? You had who? Wade Barrett?
Yeah, you had Wade Barrett. You had
Ryback, who at the time was what, Skip Shelton or something?
Yeah, wasn't it Mr. Perfect Son?
Yes. I'm trying to think. Yes, Mr. Perfect Son. Who?
Yeah.
Kurt Hennig Jr., but it wasn't Curtis Axel. That's
Curtis Axel was in
Curtis
there.
Axel. Yeah.
I remember the shirts, the black ones with the gold end on the front, and
When
If
they
you ain't
came
with
out
us, you're against
that
us.
night, but when they came out that night, nobody knew what the heck was going on because these were the young rookies, and they did something different than the NWO. The NWO would spray paint you. You know, they would throw Rey Mysterio versus against the trailer, but they completely tore the ring apart. They were choking announcers. I mean, this was good stuff. This was the Attitude Era right there on that night. I was interested in it. And then, of course, you know, the way WWE books, they just absolutely dropped the ball. They completely dropped the ball.
You dropped the ball.
Absolutely dropped
Yeah,
the ball on
just
that.
like the whole thing with Bray Wyatt by getting a hold of Kane. They should have brought the Undertaker. That would have been one hell of a faction. We talked about it last week.
Well, and not only one faction, but you put over a Bray Wyatt over an Undertaker. Instead, you have Undertaker go over on him, and it doesn't make any sense. If you're trying to make the next monster, that's Bray Wyatt. And speaking of Bray, have you heard anything? I mean, what's the latest? We heard there could be some talks between AEW. Is he just staying out of wrestling? Is it a
I
mental
think he's
thing?
staying out of wrestling. You know, he's been called to Hollywood to do a little acting, so who knows? But he needs to be back in wrestling, man. This guy's good. Great mic skills. I like the whole gimmick with what he did with the Wyatt family and everything. So this is, you know, I know they lost one of the guys. Eric Rowan's still around, but boy, I'll tell you, it's unbelievable because I miss Bray Wyatt. Great gimmick.
Well, I miss Bray Wyatt too, but of course it was, I can't think of his name right now, from AEW. And of course he was in WWE. One of his best friends passed away. And he has not been the same since. And I can't believe I remember.
I know who you mean too.
I watched the Stone Cold documentary and had a big list of crazy nicknames to choose from. Absolutely. And of course his wife at the time, said, drink your coffee before it becomes Stone Cold. And right there, he was Stone Cold. Remember, he was stunning, Steve Austin. He had hair. He was in WCW.
Yeah.
He was paired with Brian Pillman at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a heck of a tag team. And it's a shame that Pillman, had all of his problems in WCW at the time, couldn't get those guys over, because what a bunch of great talents. But of course, Pillman couldn't get over. He got hurt. He was never the same wrestler. And then the rest is history with Stone Cold, right?
Yeah. And then we just saw a couple of people get married, Alexa Bliss and Carmella. Carmella, the former Los Angeles Lakers cheerleader out here.
Well, and I also heard she's a second generation superstar because her father used to wrestle. All right. Speaking of former wrestlers, Nick Dinsmore is now going to be a comedian. Do you remember who Nick Dinsmore is?
No. If I saw his face, I'd probably remember him. But
Eugene. Remember
oh my gosh, Eugene.
remember now, he made his first appearance in 2004 as the overexcited wrestler nephew of Raw general manager Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
He says it was a goal in the sense that I didn't know if I would make it. It was just something I wanted to try for professional wrestling because I enjoyed it. And I was athletic and good things kept happening. I just kept working hard and showing up with my eyes open, my ears open, and my mouth closed. Now, you remember the gimmick, though. It was kind of, I don't think that gimmick works today, right?
Yeah, it'd be hard to make that thing work. Almost like the Booger Bastion gimmick. Remember the Booger Bastion?
Right.
That would be another one. I think the gimmicks that would work today would be the loner, like Bad News Brown. I still liked his gimmick. Skinner, that would come in, even the Sardines and Dirty as Hell. The Brooklyn Brawler. I mean, there's some gimmicks that would
gotta
work
be
today.
kind of PC, and at the time it was like a mentally challenged wrestler, so I don't see that working in this day and age. I think people would be just up in arms about it. But some people say the Undertaker, because nobody really takes it seriously. The lights going out and him being a supernatural force. They don't think that would work.
Well, the one that wouldn't work, I think, would have a problem, and people would take exception, would be the Big Boss Man.
Okay. Well,
that one I don't think would work.
Well, look, he got over there for a while.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Cobb County, Georgia.
Well, listen, the WWE has done this before, right? I mean, they had a gimmick where, and it was he was from. They've done Iraq and Iran, and they did a gimmick along. Yes, they did. Well, the Sheik.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Right. But Muhammad Hussein.
Yeah.
Remember him? And he was over and he beat The Undertaker. And then when he beat The Undertaker, his guys took him out and everybody had offense to that, took offense to it. I don't think that gimmick works, but Undertaker, would the Undertaker's gimmick still work today? Would it work?
Boy, I'll tell you, I think it would work to a certain extent. I mean, man, it's like 2 decades running, 3 decades. I don't know how many, but man, just unbelievable to see this guy. The gimmick that really fades in and out, and they tried to push it like Sergeant Slaughter, was that whole Apollo Crews with his manager, and I got a brain fart on that one. But
right, we do.
That whole thing didn't work.
Yeah, that's
Aziz, or whatever his name was, Corporal of Aziz.
Yeah, WWE just trying some things. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily work, and it's because of the PC culture. Good stuff. Any final thoughts here on the Evolution? Because I'm going to get out of here for the night. I'm going to get on the Powers on Sports podcast with my man Jason Powers. Any final thoughts?
Well, I tell you, man, I'm looking forward to what the setup is for Backlash. I'm looking out for the USFL this weekend. I'm hoping my Pirates can take a sweep against the Nationals in Pittsburgh.
Well, they should. The
My
Nationals are a
Penguins
bad
face
team,
your
right?
Tampa Bay Lightning for the Eastern Conference Final in order to get to the Stanley Cup.
We shall see about that, my friend, because the magic number for the Tampa Bay Lightning is 2, as they lost to the Dallas Stars last night, 1-0.
What a game.
What a game. Defensively, they've been better. The Lightning are that's what they got to do, and only giving up 2 goals in the last couple games here is key. They need to take the pressure off of Vasilevsky. I have nothing but confidence. In fact, I think this team right now is just looking towards the playoffs, and even though that's dangerous, they got enough superstars in the mentality that they've been there before. So look out for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Look out for this man right here, the madman himself, Mark Mancini. Go ahead and promote yourself here on the Evolution.
Well, we're on the Philly show tomorrow, and Bill North, the speedster that stole bases for the Oakland Athletics 74 World Series, will be joining us.
Very nice.
That should be a big one tomorrow. And we got Jay Rosenzweig, all Chicago talking, so I might have to put him in his place and tell him the Penguins beat the Blackhawks in 91 or 92, I think it was. So that should be an interesting one. And then I do my Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, 2nd year in a row, back on Friday, twice a week. Blessed to do that one. And I want you on XM, baby, with us.
Listen,
we gotta kick the damn door down there.
You keep on saying you want me on XM Sirius Radio. Get me on XM Sirius Radio.
I keep telling these guys, man. I keep telling these clowns, man.
I'm ready to go.
Get this guy on there, man. We're gonna have to sign a package deal, you and I, man.
Let's do it.
Mancini can't do anything unless Blake's with them.
There you go. Mark Mancini, former XPW announcer, Mancini Media, and XM Sirius Radio. Thanks a lot for your time here on the Evolution.
I love you, brother. Next Wednesday, let's kick the damn door down.
Let's do it, man. There you go. Break down the walls. Mr. Mark Mancini right there. A little Chris Jericho reference from his old WWE days. All right, guys. Thanks to all the guests here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Mr. Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News. Leo Haggerty, the legend himself, former Coach Scout and now media member of Night Sports Productions and Amped Up Sports. Jason Powers, Powers on Sports Podcast, and the madman himself, Mark Mancini. Thanks to all the comments. No calls tonight, but that's okay. We will be back this weekend for your USFL Tampa Bay Bandits show. Don't know how long it's going to be, but definitely tune into it. 2-3 things for me on this. Happy
Hump Day!
Yes. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Have a great night.
Dan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. stpetekeytag.com.
BetUS.com. If you guys are betting on the games, whether it's NFL, NCAA, of course, you're not going to do that now. Maybe basketball, not football, but of course, the NHL, NBA, go to BetUS.com. You get a 125% sign-up bonus. And also, if you use this code right here, the promo code of TSW22, which, by the way, stands for the sports web, TSW22, or call that number 1-800-69-BET-US. Again, 1-800-69-BET-US, and put in that promo code TSW22, and I would really appreciate that.
I've had 27 beers spilt on me. Make that 28.
I've only got one place to go before the game.
BetUS.com.
Sign up at BetUS.com.